Good Monday afternoon to you. Hope your week is off to a great start. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. Plenty of Browns to talk about as players cleaning out their lockers. We'll hear from several players as well as Kevin Stefanski a little later in the show. Ashley Bastock, Browns beat reporter from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, will talk to us. We will dive deeper into the 2021 season. By all accounts, a disappointing season. Browns not going to the playoffs. They did win the season finale, their 8th win of the year, 8-9 on the year. Here is Kevin Stefanski to his team after the win over the Bengals yesterday at First Energy Stadium.
That's what you do when you fight with your teammates, right? When you fight with your teammates for 60 minutes. That's that feeling, okay? So when you're going around this locker room, when you're going around to see your teammates right now, before you leave this locker room, remember that feeling, guys. That's what it is about. That is all that it's about. We'll talk big picture stuff tomorrow, okay, and all that, but what I saw today was a bunch of guys that were not leaving this place without that win. Right? And we're going to fight with your brothers for 60 minutes, and I appreciate that. And I've told you, I appreciate you guys, how you practice, how you work in the weight room, how you work in the meeting rooms, how you fight yourself out there for 60 minutes. I appreciate you. That is what it is about, okay? That is what it's about. I know we can talk where, woulda, coulda, shoulda, all that stuff, but I know what this brotherhood feels like, and I appreciate you guys. Team on three. 1, 2, 3.
All right, so Kevin Stefanski talking to his team after the win. Here was Kevin Stefanski a few minutes ago just about the season that was 2021 for the Browns.
So it's frustrating. Obviously, it's disappointing. Anytime you don't achieve your goals, it's really disappointing. But the finality of it all, and just being with the players that one last time today, and just telling them I appreciate them. I appreciate their effort. I think you see, especially yesterday, those guys played really, really hard, and I think that was a great for them as teammates to get that win and fight for each other. But ultimately, like I said earlier, didn't achieve our goals, and that's frustrating as I sit here, obviously. But what we'll do is we'll get some rest, step back, reflect on everything, and look at what we can do better for 2022.
Let's welcome in Hayden Grove, reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. And Hayden, the coach is as disappointed as fans are that there is no football left in 2021.
Yeah, I mean it's a disappointing season no matter how you look at it. I mean, last year you're 11-5. You're hearing all this hype about Super Bowl contender. You go out and play the Kansas City Chiefs in the first game. You play really well, and you kind of from there that kind of felt like a playoff game, that first game of the season, and you lose that one, and you lose the one before that in Kansas City, and then you go out and only win 8 out of 17. It was tough. It was a tough season. A lot of weird things happen. A lot of bad things happen in terms of injuries. Obviously, the injury to the quarterback, kicking all those off, and it was there was just so many different things. People ask me, what? You'll probably ask me at some point, what happened this season? I think it was a little bit of everything. I think, there were times the offense didn't play well, and especially down the stretch, the defense didn't play well at the beginning of the year. I mean, it was just kind of like when one thing went well, the other thing didn't go well. When the other thing didn't go well, the other thing went well. It's tough, and you got to move on. It's a bad season. Just like a bad game, you can't look at it. You got to look at it. You got to kind of evaluate it this whole off season, and then you push forward.
Yeah, think of how far the franchise has come, though. We're talking 8-9 as a bad season. It wasn't that long ago that they didn't win a game. So perspective, it was a disappointing season, but perspective. Time to head to the voicemail of truth and reason. This one about the Browns season.
I think everyone has forgotten in 2017, the Cleveland Browns became 0-16. Then in 2018, they drafted Baker Mayfield. In 2020, Baker Mayfield led the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs and beat the rivals, Pittsburgh Steelers. So just because of one bad season, I don't think that we should throw Baker Mayfield out just for that. I think it was his injuries. I'm not 100% on that. But from my point of view, I think that it was his injuries. So just don't give up on Baker Mayfield. Thank you.
And Hayden, I know you haven't. We've talked a number of times, but it's very fascinating how equally divided the fan base is. And it's not an easy question, but, there's a lot of truth to both sides of the argument.
There is a lot of truth. It's, I think that this year couldn't have gone worse for Baker Mayfield. I think that physically, obviously, he was hurting. I think his confidence was a little down because he wasn't able to do the things he's normally capable to do. I think, the coaching staff kind of took a step backwards and didn't help him the way that he wanted and the way that he needed. So I think it was just everything went bad for Baker. And now, you got a fan base that's very divided, which is unfortunate because I don't think it should be. I think you should find a way to look at this kind of objectively in that, yes, Baker Mayfield struggled this year, no doubt. They're, struggled through injury, didn't play great football. I think he'd be the first to admit that. That being said, you have to look at the other side of the coin. Okay, also had injuries all year long. They played a tough schedule. Like I said, I think the coaching staff let him down at times and, wasn't 100% of himself. So you have to take the entirety of his 4 years and look at who he is as a quarterback. Is he going to be a 45 touchdown, 5,000 yard quarterback? No, that's not the offense. That's not who he is. But do I think he could throw 30 touchdowns? Do I think he can be 4,000 yard passer? Do I think he can only throw 10 to 15 interceptions, be a 2-to-1, 3-to-1 interception to ratio or quarterback or touchdown to interception ratio guy? Yes, I do. So I think the Browns would be smart to bring him back. I do. I think maybe not extend him. Because if he continues to play the way he did this last season and he's healthy, then you got a bigger issue. But I don't think that's him. I don't think he'll come out and do that next year. And I'm really interested to see, his entire career he's fought back from he's made a career off of bouncing back from things not going his way. And I presume he'll do the same thing next season.
Well, the other guy that talked today, a number of players talked today, Joel Betonio, who gives a little bit of perspective because he's been here so long. He's like a lot of the Browns, thinking about what could have been in the 2021 season.
You never know when the game or the moment's going to matter. You watched the Raiders last night and they make the playoffs and Pittsburgh finds a way to make the playoffs. And, 1 or 2 games early in the season change in your favor and you're right there with them. And so I think from that mindset, we just talk about like, hey, when you can be, when you can be out there, when you can, play and provide, like every little play is going to matter. And you don't have to play tight about it, but just know like, every moment in these seasons is important. And it's not going to be like, hey, the Browns have a good roster. They're going to the playoffs this year. And, there was injuries, there was COVID, there was things that happened this year, but we had the guys to make the playoffs no matter what, regarding those things. And we didn't execute well enough to really do that. But I think there is a focus on, every game matters, every moment matters, and you never know when that's going to really flip your season.
And that was something that a number of the players kind of felt, they should be part of, in spite of everything that happened, they felt like they should have been good enough and executed well enough to be part of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, that's on a little bit of everything. I think that's a little bit on coaching. I think that's a little bit on, self-focus, being ready, being prepared to play. I think it's a little bit of everything. So, like I said, there's a lot of blame to go around. There's blame everywhere. I don't think there's blame on one person. I think there's blame on the entire team. And I think there is blame on external circumstances. Listen, Joel's right. I mean, if they beat the Las Vegas Raiders in that game, if they don't get COVID and, half the team is out, I think they win that game pretty easily. And then you're looking at, a game against the Green Bay Packers where, you have an extra week to get healthy instead of flying Baker Mayfield out the same day of the game. Again, they're not excuses because they didn't get the job done. But I was saying, they were a lot closer than it looks. It doesn't look, it looks bad because they were 8-9. They were a lot closer than it looks. They were probably 3 or 4 plays and 2 or 3 kind of iffy things away from making the playoffs. And that's why I don't think there's going to be a ton of change going into next year. I think they recognize, hey, if this doesn't happen and this doesn't happen, maybe we're in a different spot. So, yes, there's no excuse. Yes, they didn't make the playoffs, but I don't think that there's going to be wholesale changes because they are close. They're not far away.
So one of the big things, we've talked about at Baker Mayfield's injury. So Kevin Stefanski was asked, in hindsight, does he look back and think about potentially handling Baker's injury differently, maybe sitting him down? And also, the Browns said they're going to move forward with Baker Mayfield into this offseason as far as planning goes. Here's Kevin Stefanski on that.
Baker fought through those injuries, was medically cleared to play, each of those weeks, and practiced throughout those weeks and felt good. I don't think, and you guys have spoken to Baker, I don't think Baker's using any of that as an excuse. And also, not denying that guys play through injuries. So he pushed through it. Again, I know there are plays and moments that he's going to want back, and that's part of playing football, playing quarterback position, and trying to get better. So looking forward to him getting his surgery, spending some time in rehab, and then getting back on it and finding ways to improve. I think about it in terms of our entire team. We were inconsistent at times, and we just have to string better play together, both as a team and individually. And I've seen Baker play at a very high level, and I'm confident he'll get this surgery, and he's going to work real hard this offseason to bounce back.
And Hayden, Coach Stefanski's kind of alluding to what we've said. It's not one thing. The right tackle being out affected it. You didn't have your third tackle the entire year. You're playing with your fourth and fifth tackle. So everything is kind of interrelated, and the focus goes on the quarterback play because he's touching the ball on every single snap.
Yeah, I mean, that's the bottom line. This is a head coach and quarterback business. I mean, I can name you probably every quarterback and every head coach in the NFL because they're the ones that get the praise and the blame and the whatever. I mean, that's just how it goes. And I think Baker Mayfield's, mentally tough enough to handle that. But I think sometimes it's a little difficult to handle, some of the other stuff. So, yeah, he's right that Baker Mayfield doesn't deserve all the blame this season, doesn't deserve all the praise this season. Yes, he deserves praise for fighting through the injury, but there are a lot of other guys that do it. But I think it's not. I don't think you're going to have a fair evaluation of what Baker Mayfield is based on last year. I don't. I've said this from the beginning. If he finds himself elsewhere in another situation, I think he's going to thrive. So it's a really difficult thing. I think the Browns, now that they've kind of ironed things out and they've had some conversations, I think that they should bring it back one more time and give Baker one more opportunity to earn that extension. If he doesn't, you move on. Try to improve through the draft, maybe free agency, whatever, and then you go from there. But I don't think you can, I don't think there's too many chances to give a guy that seems as if he could be your the future of your franchise at quarterback, especially given if he was dealing with injury.
Yeah, and again, we're not going to know the severity of that injury. I think it affected him a whole lot more than they were letting on, and even than Baker was letting on. All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. So today, one of the coaches that was let go was Brian Flores, head coach of the Dolphins, a team that played pretty well down the stretch. This voicemail is dealing with Brian Flores.
What do you think about the Browns possibly hiring Brian Flores as their defensive coach? That's all I got. Thanks.
I wouldn't necessarily be against the idea. I think he's a really good coach. Kevin Stefanski did say he doesn't expect any major changes, and I think Joe Woods did a pretty nice job with the defense as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly be on board with what Brian Flores being their defensive coordinator, but there's two things here. One, Brian Flores is going to get another head coaching job. I mean, it's blasphemous that they even fired him. I think he's been a tremendous coach for 3 years in Miami. And I fully expect him to be a head coach somewhere else. Two, I can't fire Joe Woods. Joe Woods was great. You're right. I think he was a great coordinator. There's no sense in bringing a guy in to just overhaul a defense that I don't think needs overhauling at this point. So I like Joe Woods. I think Joe Woods improved immensely over the year. I think he got the most out of his team. I think he put his team in good situations. I really, really enjoyed the job Joe Woods did with his personnel. So for two reasons. No, you can't. Brian Flores is going to get a job somewhere else. And number two, I love Joe Woods in Cleveland right now. There are a lot of fans that hated him at the beginning of the season, but I think he's improved immensely. And I think the defense improved right along with him. So I want to see another year of Joe Woods, and I want to see Brian Flores as a head coach somewhere else because the job he did in Miami was tremendous. Their talent is amongst the lowest in the league, in my opinion. And to get them where he got them, I think it speaks volumes to who he is as head coach.
Hayden Grove and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. More Browns ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners, back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
We're talking Browns wrapping up a disappointing season in 2021. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about Baker Mayfield and the quarterback position.
Yeah, I'm calling about Baker Mayfield's situation. Yeah, I wish him best of luck. I don't think he's the guy. I think he's, I hate to see him go because of his heart, you feel like you want to give him that extra chance. But we need to move on. If we can get somebody in for a couple of years, Aaron Rodgers, I wish we would just sell the farm for Kenny Pickett. We need to look for quarterbacks that are out of the spotlight. These spotlight guys rarely make it, okay? We got to dig deep for the talent.
All right, we appreciate the voicemail. And Mr. Pickett, I just want to say you can call us whether the Browns draft Kenny or not. But in all seriousness, Hayden, I don't know that a rookie quarterback in what's considered generally a weak rookie quarterback class is ideal for this team. And as I've mentioned before, I think Baker Mayfield's injury hampered his play more than you and I really know, and I don't think he's going to even admit how much it hampered him.
Well, yeah, I mean, going back to the voicemail, spotlight guys aren't always the ones. I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, when you look at Josh Allen, I mean, he was in the same draft as Baker, one of the top guys. You look at Patrick Mahomes, was one of the top 10 guys. Aaron Rodgers, yes, he fell, but he was supposed to be a top 10 guy. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, top 10 guy. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with the fact that, spotlight guys can't get it done in the NFL. I mean, I think that's a little crazy, but he's right about Baker. I mean, Baker is all heart. And, Baker is all heart, all grit, all toughness, all things you want in a quarterback in Cleveland. And that's why I think he's right. I think you've got to give him another go. But if the Browns don't think he's the guy, it'll be very disappointing. It'll be very disappointing because I think he fits what this offense is. I think he fits or maybe he doesn't fit what this offense is, but he fits what this town is. He fits, kind of the run the ball and play action mantra because he's great at play action. I mean, it's just, it should work. It should work here. And it just doesn't seem like it is right now. Maybe just one season of poor play, but I really believe in this guy. I do. I believe in him the way that I believed in Josh Allen to come to Cleveland. And, Josh Allen's proven me right. And I believe in Baker Mayfield's ability, maybe even more so in Cleveland, because I think, Josh Allen would have had to overcome some major struggles in the first couple seasons that people really don't look at with Baker Mayfield. He had to overcome, Hugh Jackson. He had to overcome the offensive coordinator situation. He had to overcome Freddie Kitchens and that disaster. It was a lot. So for him to come out in year 3 and to put all that behind him and play well, and then to come out this year and, struggle the way that he struggled, I think that there is a bounce back coming, and I think it's a big one.
Yeah, and again, I'm not really interested in any of the rookie quarterbacks. Nothing against Kenny Pickett. But I don't want a rookie quarterback with what is around. This team is set to win pretty quickly, like next year, and I don't think a rookie quarterback gives them the best opportunity. All right, let's take a look at this is from Pro Football Focus, and it is regarding the effectiveness under pressure, and what it shows you is Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff are the least effective when they are pressured. And there are a lot of reasons for that, but the constant pressure, in addition to the injury this year, look at the sack totals. He was hurried a number of times. That speaks to Jack Conklin being out most of the year, Chris Hubbard missing all of the year, and Jedrick Wills basically playing on one leg for most of the year. Those are the tackles. So that will show you, that Baker Mayfield didn't have a clean pocket very much.
Yeah, he didn't. And, I think the tackles did struggle this year, obviously, with Jack Conklin out down the stretch. That certainly didn't help. But I think at times Baker Mayfield wasn't as confident as he normally is. And I think that has a lot to do with, maybe the shoulder or maybe the guys around him or maybe, the offense not, him not feeling comfortable in the offense this year. I think that would be my biggest thing this season is that last year Baker seemed comfortable. He seemed happy. He seemed very into it and with it. And this year he didn't seem comfortable. He didn't seem confident. And I think that could go back to the shoulder. I do. I think it could go back to the shoulder. I think it could go back to his legs. I think it could go back to, just kind of not being, he mentioned multiple times that he didn't think the offense was put in a great position. So I think next year there is an opportunity for him to get to feel comfortable again. I don't think there's any doubt that he can get back to being the quarterback that he was in 2020. And I think that comfortability will come with health and with, the health of his tackles, the health of his offensive line. And, with yet another year under his belt, having, to face the duress during the 2021 season.
And let's switch our attention here quickly to defense. We talked a little bit about Joe Woods, defensive coordinator. One guy that is a free agent now is Jadeveon Clowney. Clowney talked yesterday about the possibility of coming back and what he might be looking for.
You say you want to be back, but does money talk first?
Always, right? Especially coming out of this, you playing at a high level, you want to get paid like it. I had a couple years I've been hurt, but I always thought I was playing well. I just been injured, and I just wanted to make it through a year of health and show people that I can play at a high level and stay healthy. That was my goal this year, just to really be in a healthier place than I have been in the last few years. I think I reached that. And so going to the offseason, I'm already ahead of the curve. I ain't got nothing to get fixed or no injuries right now. So I just try to take care of myself and get ready for next season.
So you're saying no, you'll go where you could get the most money?
I ain't saying that right now, but what I'm saying, it is about money, but not about the most. It's about being comfortable in the right place. The guys around you, is all that come into play when you decide where to go.
David, Miles has said he wants you here. What does that mean?
It means a lot. I talk to him all the time. We had to become real good guys, close to each other, because we play together. So I had to pick his brain, he picked mine, and we feed off each other out there. So it's a good thing to have somebody on the other end you don't have to worry about. You just be like, hey, I'll meet you there.
And Hayden, those two work together pretty well. So you certainly hope that they can find the right spot financially to bring Clowney back.
Yeah, I was so excited about the signing when they got him because I think he really is a tremendous talent. And pairing him with Miles, I think they both benefited tremendously from each other. So, yeah, I think that it would behoove both of them and behoove the organization to get Jadeveon back. That said, money talks. And the Browns, I don't think they're in a bad situation money-wise, but they're going to have to do some things to restructure some things to they're going to want to pay a guy like Denzel Ward. They want to, reward him for, what he's done and, going in next year. And you want to bring Clowney back. And, there are some other guys that are getting paid a lot of money that you might have to, think about, parting ways with. So it's difficult. But I certainly do agree and hope that they can give Jadeveon Clowney, a nice 2-3 year deal and have him maybe end his career or most of his career or end the latter part of his career in Cleveland.
Well, another guy on the other side of the ball, David Njoku, free agent. And again, he has made it clear year ago, wasn't so sure he wanted to be here. He's pretty sure he wants to be here. Here's David Njoku from today.
I love it here. I love it here to the core. I honestly want to be here for the rest of my career. So my agent and the Browns are still in talks. We're still negotiating, figuring out what we can do, and we'll go from there. Obviously, we left a lot on the field, and I want to take, personal blame for some of that. For me, I feel like I could have done more. We all feel like we could have done more. So, we have to just, turn the next chapter and get back to work. Obviously, take a little vacation, take time off to reflect, relax, refocus. But in a couple of weeks, we have to hunker down and start from phase one again.
And Hayden, that's a guy that, again, if they can find a way to make it work, he was the most productive tight end. Austin Hooper has not. He's been a bit of a disappointment. I guess the only way to characterize him with the Browns.
Yeah, with David Njoku, I never imagined we'd be at this point. I really don't. From the beginning, it was like, okay, David is, athletic freak but can't catch, and David is an athletic freak but can't block, and David is an athletic freak but doesn't want to be here. And then all of a sudden, he kind of turned a corner somewhere, and I think matured, and I think got a lot better. And I'm really proud of David Njoku, if that makes any sense. I think he's had a tremendous, growth in Cleveland, and I think that I would love to see him as the tight end for the Browns for the next 5 years. I think he's got that ability within him. I think he's worked really hard to become a better catcher. I think he's worked really hard to become a better pass blocker. I think, in his life, I think, him embracing Cleveland is an awesome thing. Yes, the grass can look greener elsewhere, but David has had a pretty good go of it here in Cleveland in terms of getting better and really, like I said, maturing. So I would do everything I could to get David Njoku back. I never thought I would say that in a million years. I never thought so. But here we are. I would do anything to get him back. Get him back for another 5 years, maybe longer, and really just give him the opportunity to continue to grow and to continue to become a great pass catcher that I know he can be, because he's an athletic freak. He's a matchup problem, and he's finally kind of gotten into who he is. And I now want to see him, get to become better and better and better as we go along.
Important to note, he was a young rookie too, so growing as he gets a little bit more seasoned and a little bit more experience. Hayden Grove and I are going to step aside. We're going to keep talking Browns football, sports for CLE. Be right back after this quick timeout. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns, wrapping up the season 2021. Browns failed to make the playoffs, 8-9 record. Nick Chubb talked to the media about the offense and some of the issues with it during the season.
Biggest thing was just lack of consistency, lack of focus, and that's pretty much it. We have all the tools we need. We have the plays called. It's on us to go out there and execute it well. And we had some things that just didn't go our way. Some bad decisions the way we all made, and it's a little bit of everything. You can't really pinpoint one thing on it. But I think going to the offseason, just coming in, fixing the small things, getting back to work.
So, Hayden, Nick Chubb rushed for 1,259 yards, 5.5 yards a carry. Does that performance? That's a really good performance. He's second in the NFL in rushing. Does that get pushed to the background because of the disappointing season that the offense had?
Sure. Yeah, it does, unfortunately. I remember the days watching the Browns where they couldn't get on a 1,000-yard rush. That just wasn't a thing. Reuben Jones, I think, was like the first in a long time, and then you got Jamal Lewis. But it wasn't a thing back then. It was tough to get a 1,000-yard rusher. Now it's, with Nick Chubb in this offensive line and Kareem Hunt, we've been talking about trying to get two in the same season. So obviously Kareem had injuries, and I feel horribly for Kareem because I think he got a really bad deal this year. But yeah, Nick Chubb, it unfortunately does. And I don't think anybody is taking Nick Chubb for granted. I think they know how great he is. I think they know what kind of a person, what kind of a player he is. So Nick Chubb, honestly, I think I'm not going to sit here and try to belittle Nick Chubb, because that is not my goal whatsoever. I think Nick Chubb deserves the rushing title and all that. But I think some of the rushing stats are, maybe because a lot of these other teams don't run the ball as much. And it gives Nick Chubb the opportunity to, maintain his place at the top of the NFL because he gets the carries and gets the touches. And I would say he probably deserves more carries and more touches. So keep making him the number one. He should. I don't know how it hasn't happened that he's been the number one rusher, for a consecutive year. Like, be the number one rusher in the NFL next year. I think Nick Chubb should do it. I think he deserves to do it. I think he wants to do it. I think the team should make him do it. I think it's for the best for the team for him to be the number one rusher in the NFL next year. So he was number 2 this year. Jonathan Taylor, tip your cap, was amazing. But next year, I want to see Nick Chubb at the top of that list, number 1, because we all know he can do it. We all know he deserves to do it, and I think it's for the best of the team for him to do it.
Yeah, 5.5 yards a carry in the NFL. That's pretty eye-opening. All right, time for us to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one's about Baker Mayfield again.
As simple as it is, Baker got to go. Baker, people take Baker last 8 games of last season and sum up his whole career. You don't just take 8 games and say, this is who he is. The majority of his has shown who he is. Yes, he had a breakout season last year, but that's it. He is who he is. A certified backup quarterback in the National Football League. Nothing else, nothing more. Will never be anything more, in my opinion, at least in the Cleveland Browns uniform. And I think that fans need to wake up and see that. Go get somebody else why he's valuable, because soon he's not going to be valuable. And a lot of people saying Russell Wilson and all the quarterbacks like Deshaun Watson, and we shouldn't get Deshaun Watson because of this, and Russell Wilson won't want to come to Cleveland, Aaron Rodgers and all this. You can convince Russell Wilson to come to Cleveland with the supporting cast we have. We have a young cast right now. We're not going to be able to hold those players for long. Those players are going to get paid. And we're going to have to either pay or release it. We're not going to be able to pay all of them. So we are in a win-now mode.
All right, again, appreciate the voicemail. I don't think you're going to convince Russell Wilson to come to Cleveland. Look at the wide receivers. He's got DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. But aside from that, Baker Mayfield had a pretty good rookie season, so it wasn't just the last 8 games. And again, right now his value is as low as it's going to be because of the season that he just had, and he's injured. So those are the only 2 things I would. Other than that, so I'm going to disagree. I'm going to respectfully disagree with our voicemailer.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if he's right and you can get Russell Wilson to Cleveland, I mean, it's hard to say no. I mean, the only thing that I would think is that, I'd rather build with a guy like Baker who's been there and have him for 10 years and find that continuity. But it would be hard to say no to a guy like Russell Wilson. It would be impossible to say no to a guy like Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that's a whole different ballgame. But that being said, I don't think either of those guys is going I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going anywhere. I think he's going to go win the Super Bowl and then maybe retire or come back to Green Bay. Russell Wilson, I think, fits a lot better in maybe the West in Denver than he would in Cleveland. But you never know. So yeah, I think if Russell Wilson's out there and he's a possibility, I'm okay with them trying to bring him to Cleveland. Again, I think my personal thing would be awesome to keep both he and Baker Mayfield. Let Russell Wilson come in and, let Baker Mayfield mature for a couple more years and then kind of bring him back. But I know that's not the reality of the NFL, especially where Baker, wants to be out there and wants to play because he thinks he deserves it. And I think he deserves it as well. So it's such a hard situation. I think, yes, Russell Wilson's out there, but I think the situation might just figure itself out. Like, I think you bring Baker Mayfield back and, going into next year, if he doesn't play well, you draft the quarterback, you move on. If he does play well, you give him the extension and then you have your quarterback, hopefully for the next 10 years. But I just don't buy the idea of bringing in Kirk Cousins for 2 seasons and that he'll elevate you to a Super Bowl. I just don't see that. Derek Carr, similar kind of issues with that I have, but maybe a little better than Kirk Cousins. But outside of Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, there's nothing that interests me. It's just fact.
Yeah, I'm a little more intrigued by Derek Carr, but by and large, I'm agreeing with that assessment. Don't want Marcus Mariota, don't want Kirk Cousins, not really interested in Jimmy Garoppolo, though he had a nice fourth-quarter drive yesterday, but I'm going to pass on all those. I'll take my chances with Baker Mayfield. All right, Hayden Grove and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. On the other side of the break, we continue Putting a bow on the 2021 season, we continue talking Browns. Stay with us on Sports4CLE.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Welcome back to Sports4CLE. We continue talking Browns. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason one more time.
This is a great show. I can't remember in my 48 years of being a football fan where a show came on where we can actually voice our opinion. I love this show. I really think the Browns should listen to this show, maybe do something with the show, like after a game on Monday, listen to a couple of us, and then comment on it, you know? You guys are great. Seriously, you give us a chance to voice our opinions, the fans, and I love this show. Thanks. Bye.
All right, we appreciate that, and we want more fans to leave us voicemails. You see the number continuously on the scroll, and you give us the ability to go where we're going to take the show. All right, Kevin Stefanski dealt with some questions. One that was really interesting, the most frustrating part of the 21 season. Here's Kevin Stefanski from earlier today.
You sit back here and you look at and you watch all those games again and just missed opportunities. And I think that's kind of how it felt throughout the season. We weren't consistent enough to win consistently, to play 60 minutes of good complementary football. So it's a bunch of different things, but ultimately we just didn't take advantage of some of our opportunities.
And Hayden Grove, that was, I agree, that's frustrating. And there was something that was just a little off and couldn't figure it out. I still don't know what it is. And that might be what it was. They just could never put an entire game together.
Yeah, like I said, it was a little bit of everything. You know, when your quarterback's got a bum shoulder, that doesn't help. When your, offensive line is, rotate or has issues with the left tackle with his ankle, then Jack Conklin gets hurt. That's big. Defensively, didn't click early, clicked late. Offensively, maybe clicked a little more early, didn't click late. There's a lot of things. Individual games. Jarvis Landry against the Steelers, you've never seen him do what he did in that game, and they lost that game. And I'm not saying it's because of him, but you've never seen that. You've never seen the fumbles and the drops from him. The Odell situation didn't help. I don't think that helped. I don't think getting rid of Odell helped at all, regardless of what they say. I think on the field, that Odell helps other receivers, doesn't hurt them. So, I fully believe that that this season was just snake bitten in a lot of different ways. Maybe it was a kind of bounce back in terms of kind of karma or whatever from 2020, where it seemed everything that went their way. But here we are. And I think if this team is going to be, if this is going to be the regime, if this is going to be the coaching staff, if this is going to be the GM that turns this corner for this franchise and really does it in a sustainable way, I think next year will have to be another great one. And if not, then we're going to have questions about not only the quarterback, but we're going to have questions about the coach. We're going to have questions about the GM. We're going to have questions about the whole operation. So I hope that's not the case, because I don't believe it to be the case. I think that it can work with Barry, with Stefanski, with Baker Mayfield, with everybody they got right now. I think it can work. Don't know why it didn't. And you got to move forward and hope that next year is very different from this one.
Yep, I would agree wholeheartedly. All right, Pro Football Focus came out with their 2021 All-Pro team, a couple of Browns on it. Joel Betonio was the left guard, and then Myles Garrett, the edge rusher. So he beats out T.J. Watt. T.J. Watt's second team. So Garrett outgrades him as far as Pro Football Focus goes. Kind of interesting with the whole T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett grading in Pro Football Focus, because yesterday Watt tied Michael Strahan's record for sacks. So more goes into it than just sacks, is I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to come at Kevin Stefanski too hard here, but when you let T.J. Watt get after James Hudson the way that he did and have 4 sacks against the Browns, that'll happen. So it's a lot aided by what the Browns did, but also Miles towards the end of the year. I mean, played on a bad groin, played his butt off, was one of 6 guys in the Browns to play all 17 games, fought through everything too. I don't think we talk enough about the way that Miles fought. And I think the team's game planned very adequately for Miles, double teams, triple teams, putting different guys on him. Miles, I don't think was going to get the sacks, but I think he allowed the way. I think he paved the way for Jadeveon Clowney to have a career year. I think he paved the way for Malik McDowell to really excel. I think he paved the way for guys like JOK to get in there and get sacks. So Myles Garrett gets a ton of appreciation from me. I know that people say, oh, he disappeared. He didn't disappear. He's right there. He was there every game, busting his butt, taking on double teams, taking on extra guys, making it a little easier for other guys in that defense. And surely it won't go lost on my eyes.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially late in the year. He was playing on one leg, without question. All right, yeah. John Johnson, free agent signing, had a little bit of an up and down year. He talked today. He thinks all the pieces are there for this defense to be dominant moving forward.
Getting, JOK out there, Jacob towards the end of the season. Guys are going to be here next year to get those, reps underneath their belt, that experience, and hopefully we can get some guys back. I'm coming back, like you said. I think it's my job to. I'm 1 year in this defense, this organization, so I definitely have I have more ground to stand on, and I think it's my job to get this defense firing. Our goals were top 5. We ended up being, I think, number 5 in yards. So I think if we shoot for number 1, we'll be close to that. And it's just like you say, it's a good place to start. Hopefully everything stays intact and we can just keep our guys healthy. And I think we got something good going.
And Hayden, there will be new faces, but not nearly as many as there were this year on that defensive side of the ball.
No, I mean, but at the same time, if you look at that linebacker room, you might have some pretty significantly new faces. I think that there's not going to be that many new faces, but I think Malik Jackson probably isn't back. There's a likelihood Jadeveon Clowney's not back. Malik McDowell had a great year, his first kind of full year in the NFL. I'm proud of him, proud of the way that he's, lived life and gotten back to this point. I think Anthony Walker was only a 1-year deal. He might not be back. Sione Taki might not be back. Mac Wilson might not be back. There's a full probability that the defense actually might look a little different again. But that being said, I do think that the makings are there. I want to see more. I want to see more of Jacob Phillips. I want to see more of JOK. I want to see more of John Johnson, and Ronnie Harrison might not be back there. So I want to see more of Grant Delpit. I want to see some of these rookies that they're going to bring in. There's certainly going to be rookies and other players they're going to bring in this year. So I think the foundation of that defense is set, which is a great thing. You got Miles, you got Denzel, you got, hopefully Jadeveon Clowney, you got Greg Newsome, who was great. You got JJ3. There's some really nice pieces back there. I want to see more of it. I want to see, continued success out there. And I'm excited to see what pieces they can bring in. And I'm also excited to see the elevation of guys, like I said, like Grant Delpit, Jacob Phillips, and JOK.
Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com, as always. Hayden, thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, guys. You have a great day. Thanks for everything this year.
I appreciate it. Hayden Grove, reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. We're step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Ashley Bastock joins us. We're going to continue talking Browns. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams, I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns. Wrapped up the 2021 season with an 8-9 record. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one again about the quarterback, Baker Mayfield.
I think Baker should be gone. I don't think that he can run the offense well enough. Obviously, he's been injured. Obviously, the wide receiver core is not that great. But I don't think he is the one. He reads plays like a last year Carson Wentz. He throws the ball like Blaine Gabbert if you strapped a rocket to his arm. I mean, he can't read plays. He can't throw the ball, and he's holding us back. We have a top 10 offensive line, top 1 running back core in the NFL, good defense. Obviously, Kevin hasn't been helping him out because he had a down year play calling this year. But I think we need someone who can at least run the offense. It doesn't take much to make us a contender. I just don't think that he can do it.
All right, Ashley Bastock, I think the fact that the Browns came out and said they're moving forward with Baker tells me that injury affected him a little bit more than Baker or the Browns were letting on. And the other thing is you really can't judge much of anything from Baker Mayfield based on 2021. You just can't. I think he had one game where he wasn't banged up.
Yeah, I mean, that shoulder injury, the messaging we've heard on that, and I think I talked about this last week on this show, it definitely changed over the last few weeks from the team. Like, we heard Baker Mayfield and we heard Alex Van Pelt admit that shoulder harness really did impact him down the stretch of the season. And we heard guys today talk after or before their exit interviews that were going on in Berea, Wyatt Teller, Joel Betonio, John Johnson III, these team leaders sort of saying that they understand that he was impacted, Nick Chubb as well, that Baker Mayfield was impacted. Guys seem to respect the fact that he played. And obviously, I understand why players are saying that. But I do think in hindsight, it's kind of a fair question to ask. What would have happened if Baker Mayfield had sat, if he had gotten surgery earlier, closer to when that shoulder injury happened in week 2. But of course, the saying hindsight's 2020 is true. I think the Browns sort of looked at this situation and said, even a hurt Baker Mayfield has a higher ceiling than Case Keenum. For whatever reason, they thought that, right? And they continued to play him week to week. The medical personnel involved with these decisions said it was okay. And Baker Mayfield's obviously a competitive guy. He wanted to be out there. But evaluating this season for him, I've been saying it for weeks, is going to be incredibly difficult. And they have that cushion year, that 5th year. And I understand why they might want to use it to just cross all their T's and dot all the I's. These are not easy cut and dry decisions. And that caller in that voicemail wants to move on from Baker Mayfield, but there's plenty of fans on the flip side of that too. I mean, I think the fan base is really divided over Baker Mayfield's future here in Cleveland. And it's understandable why. I think that kind of should give some insight into how confusing this year has been and how much that injury has impacted things is kind of an unanswerable question, I think.
Yeah, and the flip side of it is, if you're going to say move on from him, what are you moving on to? And,
right.
You have to really ask, is it significantly better or is it better? Because as the viewer on the voicemail said, this team's set up to be successful with pretty good quarterback play being the biggest thing that they didn't get this year. Well, the other guy that has been really good, rookie Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, opened a lot of eyes. He talked today about the biggest lessons he learned from his rookie season?
I think the biggest lesson that I learned was not it's not the fastest, or it's not the strongest, or it's not the smartest teams that are successful in this this business and in this league. I think anybody would agree that on paper, we're better than dang near any of the teams that you're really seeing, in the playoffs and things like that. Those teams that can do the right things at the right time, and those teams that have 11 people who can do the job, when it's called for. So that's the biggest lesson that I really took, just in terms of the brotherhood really matters. That's something that I would really like see, is just this team to be a team, and the brotherhood to be a brotherhood, and just a unit to be a unit. And that's the biggest thing that I really learned, just in terms of what we should look towards next year.
And Ashley, I know you wrote an article, and go ahead, and I'm kind of setting you up to talk about the article that you wrote with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
Yeah, I appreciate it. JOK has been such an interesting player to me this season. And even when the Browns drafted him, just the fact that he was even available in the second round for them to take. And then Andrew Berry was super aggressive in trading up to make sure they got him when he was still available. So I really just wondered, he's such a interesting player in terms of the fans already love him. He's so good at so many different things. He can stick his nose between a tackle and go get a quarterback as easily as he can cover a wide receiver. And at the same time, he's super good at tackling, obviously. But at the same time, just realizing, I don't know that much about this guy. How did he get like this? So I kind of set out to talk to all of these people who have known him for years, who coincidentally, people from his high school, Bethel High School in the Hampton Roads region of Virginia, they all still stay in touch with him, but all of them sort of said too, he's just always been like this. His high school coach talked about seeing him on the youth league fields and seeing him run around and doing all of these things that he does for the Browns now, to obviously a different level. But that's always kind of been in his game. And he played a similar position in high school. And then obviously he played Notre Dame's rover position, which I think is part of the reason why the Browns liked him, that it's this really hybrid position that players can do a lot if they play it well. And I think we saw JOK do that this year. And also, it's just super interesting to hear his mentality. He's a very cerebral, intense guy. Earlier this year, we heard about his note-taking abilities. And I think when you realize how academic-minded he is, and how much his mom especially stressed that when he was growing up, it really allowed him to excel this year, even though he was unlucky with some of those injuries and landing on the COVID list in camp, I believe it was. And obviously had the weightlifting accident in camp that had him unable to wear his helmet. He had the high ankle sprain. All of that happened to him, and he was still able to make a tangible impact for this team, and I think prove that he was worth trading up in the draft to get, and that the Browns got really lucky that no one else took him in the first round.
Yeah, he fits what this defense wants to do, and it'll be really fun to watch him grow. Well, JOK and John Johnson III both talked about that elusive thing, kind of building chemistry. This is again from today.
I wouldn't use the word lacking necessarily, but I would say that that's something that we just need to get better at. There's a lot of things that we need to get better at, but that's just one of the things that I would say that I took away just by my observation, is just the ability for us to bond closer, and the abilities for us to build that team chemistry that's needed.
That chemistry is huge. Offense and defense and special teams, we need, to feed off one another. And it's big, and that's something, like I said, I think that's another job that I have to take on and figure it out, but we'll get there.
And Ashley, COVID kind of makes that whole chemistry and team building thing even a bigger challenge, because you have two separate locker rooms, you try to separate and social distance. So those are some of the challenges for the Browns.
Yeah, I was going to say, we just heard from Kevin Stefanski an hour ago, sort of answering those remarks from those guys. And I think it's sort of undoubted at this point that COVID played a major, major issue in that. Like you mentioned, these guys aren't even in one locker room. The last few weeks, especially, a lot of meetings have been virtual. Guys aren't doing as much outside of football necessarily. As the Browns were having that COVID outbreak a few weeks ago, we heard from multiple guys. Now, I'm sure it wasn't like this for everyone, but I believe Myles Garrett was one guy who said, I I come to the facility and then I go back home. Like some guys who are not willing to risk, missing time just don't have much of a social life outside of coming to Berea every day and being in the facility and going to practice and getting workouts in. So I definitely think kind of having to split things up so that you could try to prevent a mass number of guys getting sick and landing on that COVID-19 reserve list at once definitely hindered that type of thing. But I'm curious now that they recognize that's a problem, how they're going to resolve it going into 2022.
Yeah, without question. So Joel Betonio talked about just the way the team believes in the head coach and that he'll get things kind of figured out. Here's Joel Betonio from earlier today.
Yeah, I think we're all very confident in Coach Stefanski. He, he's the same guy. I think this end of the year, there was obviously some things we want to get right, but I couldn't tell if, we won the Super Bowl with that guy or we missed the playoffs. He's so even keeled and he's so day-to-day with his processes and figuring things out that we're going to be in a good spot. And he understands. I think he talks about, he looks in the mirror first and foremost, what can he do better to put us in a better position? And when the head coach is doing that, the players have to do that as well. You're looking at yourself, what can we do to improve as a person, as a player, and kind of take that field. But I think we have all the confidence in the world in him. And we know next year we're going to come back with a little bit of fire.
And Ashley, the fact that that the head coach is the same this year as he was last year, players want that. Players want to know what am I walking into each and every day, and it's very telling that Betonio came out and said that pretty quickly.
Especially a guy like Joel Betonio, who, let's think about that. He's the longest tenured Brown. He has been a part of every negative moment that this team has been a part of over the last half decade. I mean, this is a guy who has seen it all. And, even Joel Betonio got posed a question today, there are probably years he would have killed to be 8-9. He has all the perspective that I think is necessary for a veteran to have on any successful NFL team. But I think ever since Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry got here, they've both brought the same kind of stability that this organization, quite honestly, hadn't really seen since it came back to Cleveland. And I just think overall that that's so important. And I think that this year, has the potential, when we look back on it down the road, to have been an anomaly for multiple different reasons. It could have been a perfect storm of injuries and other things going wrong, and the AFC North being such a weird division that ultimately leads to the Browns having the record that they have and being left out of the playoffs. But after, one down year, considering what the Browns were able to accomplish last year, I think it's understandable why guys like Joel Betonio are still saying they have confidence in Kevin Stefanski and even in Baker Mayfield going forward.
All right, before I let you go real quick, biggest takeaways. When you think about this season, what do you take away from it?
Yeah, I think overall, and my colleague Dan Lobby wrote a story about this yesterday after the game, that it was just a missed opportunity. I mean, you look at the talent that the Browns have this year, and like I just mentioned, how weird the AFC North is. For example, the Ravens having the year they had, they're not going to be as down next year because they're going to get a lot of their guys who are injured back. I think the Browns are built to win now. So the fact that you look at some of these close losses they've had, the fact that they couldn't score over 17 points in the back half of the season, they're so close to beating Kansas City. They're so close to beating the Packers, these top flight teams in the NFL. They have a game like they did against the Raiders. They intercept Lamar Jackson 4 times in Baltimore, and all of those games, they still end up losing. You look at how many of their losses were within a single score, and it truly is just remarkable. And I think it was 6 of their losses or something. So there's a lot that didn't go their way, but those missed opportunities added up, bottom line.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to put it. 2021 was the season of missed opportunities for the Browns. Ashley Bastock, as always, thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
All right, Ashley Bastock. Make sure you read her pages of the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. That'll do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you again tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Scheduled guests, Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, and Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. That is tomorrow, 4 o'clock on Sports for CLE. We'll see you then. Have a great night, everybody.